I'd like to welcome you to the Monday version of the Thought for the Day, and it's really good to be together, as always. So Lenny sent me these words the other day. It's about relationships, and here's what the words say. There are relationships that create so much safety that you no longer need to pretend to be somebody that you are not. You don't have to pretend to be somebody you are not. And I think of all the times in my life that I've, pretended. You know, because sometimes you pretend to be somebody you're not to please the people that think you should be the way they want you to be. And that isn't healthy. And I just think of all the relationships that you're in, whether it's your spouse, your partner, family, the people you work with. And it's really nice to be in a relationship where the people that you're with allow you to be really true to yourself, even if it makes you a lot different than they are. And also for us to be unselfish enough to allow others to be who they are, even if it's not exactly the way we want them to be. And so relationships where you're safe are such a gift. And the older I get, the more I treasure those relationships where we can be safe and true to ourselves. You know, I think of when I came here so many years ago, you know, the focus in the seminary, the focus when I came here was to make sure the church got bigger and grew. And so my focus was on making sure that everybody was happy with who I was, oftentimes at the expense of being true to myself. And that's not healthy, but sometimes you get caught up in that. And today, years later, I'm blessed because I got you. You know, you allow me to be who I am. And I just think of the people I work with here at the church, the ones that are here today, doing the thought for the day, the freedom that I have to be true to myself. And that's such a gift. You know, today I'm kind of surprised because some of my favorite people are here, my Stitch and Sew buddies. And I remember when Stitch and Sew began a few years ago. I know the ladies came and they were doing their artwork, their stitching, their sewing, and Peggy and I started to come. And years later, there's a little bit of stitching and sewing going on. But what they do is they just care about each other. And quietly, they do things like donuts on Easter Sunday or a brick in the back for somebody they love. But I think most of all, they just care about each other and they care about the church. It's just a little pocket of goodness. And one of the things I remember most about the Stitch and Sew community, and that is there was a lady years ago named Janet Gatus, and she became sick with cancer. And I remember one time they said, would you be willing to come to her place and we could all gather together and share communion? And I remember going to her apartment, and the people from Stitch and Sew, we sat in a circle. I brought some Hawaiian bread and a bottle of wine, and we were in a circle, and we shared the Lord's Prayer, and we shared communion. And to me, that spoke to the heart and soul of who they are, but who we are as a church. And speaking of relationships, I think one of the most important relationships is the relationship that we have with our higher power, with God and with Jesus. And speaking of Holy Communion, you know, we're getting to Holy Week, and we'll have that Maundy Thursday and Good Friday and Easter Sunday. And when we have communion here at the church and we gather at the altar, when we kneel and we share the gift of bread and wine, just like we gathered in a circle in Janet Gatus' apartment. You know, we have so many rules about who can come to the altar and who can't, how old you have to be, whether you have to be Lutheran or Catholic or anything in between. And that's not what communion is about, not even close. Because when we come to the altar, whether it's in somebody's living room, at the kitchen table, or right here, it's about having a relationship to a God who accepts us for who we are. Oh, we can change a little bit, and maybe we can do things some better, but communion is about a relationship. It's not about what happens to the bread and the wine. It's about what happens to your heart and your soul. And that's one of the things I just love about our church. It's that openness and understanding of what something as simple as communion can be about. And so today, as the season of Lent kind of winds down and Holy Week is upon us, let us think about those relationships that feed us and nourish us. And may we seek those relationships that help us to be free to who we are, and may we be humble enough and gracious enough to let others be free to be who they are. And to me, that all comes together when we gather here at the altar and taste the gifts of acceptance and unconditional love. Hey, thanks for this crowd that's here today, but most of all, just thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to my ramblings, and may the good Lord be with you, and as always, peace for Ukraine. God bless.